Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We use so many phrases in English every day without really thinking about them.
That's true.
And but today we're going to take four common phrases, like tide over, sustainable, wrap your head around, and bring it up.
Okay.
And we're going to uncover the surprising stories behind them.
It's amazing how much history and cultural insight can be packed into just a few words.
Exactly. And so let's start with tide over. It always makes me think about resilience, like how people find the strength to navigate these tough situations.
Right. And it's fascinating how this idea is reflected in the phrases nautical routes back in the 19th century. Sailors relied on the tides to literally tide them over, obstacles using the natural forces to their advantage.
Isn't that a great image? It's like
Yeah.
the tide is giving you that extra push, to get through a challenge.
And that meaning has evolved into the way we use tide over today.
Hmm.
Think about the example from your source. Um, John losing his job, his savings, helped to tide him over until he found a new one. So it's about bridging that gap, providing support during a difficult time.
Right. And it's not just about money, is you could tide someone over emotionally as well, offering support and encouragement.
Absolutely. And just like those sailors had different ways to navigate, we have various synonyms for tide over. Words like sustain, support, or bridge the gap all capture that same essence.
Okay, so that's tide over, unpack. Now let's move on to a word that's practically unavoidable these days, sustainable. It seems like everyone's talking about sustainability, but I wonder if we're on the same page about what it really means.
It's become a real buzzword.
Yeah.
And I think that's partly because the concept itself is so multifaceted. It's about more than just the environment, though that's certainly a huge part of it.
Right, we hear about companies going green and adopting sustainable practices to minimize their environmental impact, like in that example you provided.
Exactly. But sustainable also applies to economic and social systems. Can they endure over the long term? Are they designed to meet present needs without compromising future generations? These are all questions tied to sustainability.
That's where it gets really interesting, right? It's about creating systems that can actually hold up over time.
And if you look at the word's Latin root, sustinere, it literally means to hold up or support. So there's this inherent strength and resilience baked into the concept of sustainability. It's about thinking long term, about creating something that can truly last.
Wow. I'm starting to see how deep this idea goes.
Uh,
It's definitely more than just a trendy term. And just like with tide over, we can use other words to express similar ideas, right?
Of course, viable, maintainable, enduring, these all convey that sense of something being able to continue in a healthy way.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and tackle a phrase that always makes me smile, to wrap your head around something.
It is a rather amusing image, isn't it? Like trying to physically contain a complex idea.
Exactly. And it often applies to those really abstract concepts, things that take a bit of mental wrestling to grasp.
Like quantum physics, as your source mentioned, not exactly something that's easy to grasp on the first try.
Oh, absolutely. Quantum physics is definitely a prime example of something that takes time and effort to wrap your head around. It's like trying to solve a multidimensional puzzle.
That's a great way to put it. And the phrase perfectly captures that feeling of struggling to comprehend something complex, of needing to work through it mentally until it clicks into place.
So when we're trying to express that feeling of mental grappling, what are some other ways to say, wrap your head around something?
You could use grasp, comprehend, or even come to terms with. They all convey that process of working through something until it becomes clear.
All right, I'm feeling pretty confident about those first three phrases, but I'm ready to dive into one that we use all the time without even thinking, bring it up.
Ah, yes, a phrase so ingrained in our everyday conversations.
Seriously, it's like it's woven into the fabric of communication. We bring things up in meetings, in casual chats, pretty much everywhere.
And what's fascinating is that it's such a simple phrase, yet incredibly versatile. Bring suggests introducing something, and up implies making it a subject of attention. It's a straightforward way to describe raising a topic no matter the setting.
You're right, we could be bringing up deadlines in a team meeting or bringing up a funny memory with friends.
Yeah,
It works in both formal and informal settings.
exactly. It's adaptable and clear, which is probably why it's so widely used.
That's so interesting. So if we want to vary our language a bit,
Yeah.
what are some synonyms for bring it up?
Well, you could raise a topic, mention something in passing, or more formally address an issue.
Those are great options. It's amazing how many different ways we can express the same basic idea.
It speaks to the richness and nuance of the English language, and I think it's a perfect reminder that there's always more to explore even in the phrases we use every day. It's fascinating how even simple phrases like bring it up can reveal so much about how we communicate. And speaking of revealing things, our next set of phrases takes us into the world of idioms and proverbs, those expressions that add color and cultural depth to our language.
Oh, I love a good idiom. They're like little windows into a culture's shared experiences and values.
Exactly. And often they're packed with imagery that helps bring their meaning to life. Take spill the beans, for instance.
Well, that always makes me chuckle. It's like you can practically see those beans tumbling out secrets scattered everywhere.
Right. And that visual perfectly captures the idea of revealing something that was supposed to be kept hidden. But did you know that one theory about its origin goes all the way back to ancient Greece?
Really, tell me more.
Well, apparently they used beans for voting white, for yes, black, for no. So spilling the beans could literally mean revealing the outcome of a secret ballot.
Wow, that's amazing. I had no idea there was such a historical connection.
It's a great example of how these phrases can carry echoes of the past, even as their meanings evolve over time.
Okay, I'm ready to spill the beans on another idiom. How about bite the bullet?
Ah, yes, a phrase that evokes a very different kind of imagery and not a particularly pleasant one.
Right.
But it speaks to that very human experience of having to face something difficult head on.
It's like that moment when you know you just have to grit your teeth and get through it no matter how unpleasant it might be.
And the historical context adds another layer to that idea. It's thought to have originated during wartime when soldiers undergoing surgery without anesthesia would bite down on a bullet to endure the pain.
Oh, wow, that puts a whole new perspective on it. Talk about facing a tough situation with courage.
It really does, and it reminds us that sometimes the best way to deal with a challenge is to just bite the bullet and get it over with.
Okay, we've tackled two pretty intense idioms. Ready for one that's a little more lighthearted.
Absolutely. What have you got?
How about once in a blue moon? It's such a beautiful way to describe something rare and special.
It is lovely, isn't it? And it conjures up this sense of wonder and possibility, like something magical happening under a rare blue moon.
It's interesting, though, because the blue moon isn't really about the color of the moon at all.
Right. It's an astronomical term for when there are two full moons in a single month, which happens on average only every few years. So it's more about the infrequency of the event itself.
So even though it's not a literal blue moon, the phrase still captures that sense of rarity and specialness.
Exactly. And that's what makes idioms so powerful. They use vivid imagery and metaphors to convey meaning in a way that resonates with us.
All right, let's shift gears again and explore a couple of proverbs, those nuggets of wisdom that have been passed down through generations.
I always appreciate a good proverb. They offer these timeless insights into human nature and behavior.
The first one that comes to mind is, don't count your chickens before they hatch.
Ah, yes, a classic reminder about the importance of patience and managing expectations.
It's like that saying, don't put the cart before the horse. We need to let things unfold naturally instead of getting ahead of ourselves.
Right, and the proverb uses such a clear image to get its point across. We can all picture someone excitedly counting those unhatched chicks only to be disappointed later.
It's a great lesson in not taking things for granted and remembering that things don't always go as planned.
Exactly. It's about being realistic and avoiding disappointment by not banking on something before it's a sure thing.
Okay, one more proverb to round out this part of our deep dive. How about Rome wasn't built in a day?
Another timeless piece of advice. This one speaks to the value of perseverance and understanding that great things take time and effort to achieve.
It's like a gentle nudge to anyone feeling impatient or discouraged, reminding them that meaningful progress happens step by step, not all at once.
And it's so relevant, right? Whether we're talking about personal goals, professional projects, or even societal change, that reminder to be patient and persistent is essential.
I love how these proverbs offer such concise and impactful pieces of guidance. It's like they distill generations of wisdom into a single sentence.
They do, and they remind us that even though language is constantly evolving, certain truths about human experience remain timeless.
Welcome back. I'm feeling inspired after exploring those timeless proverbs.
Oh.
It's amazing how a few words can hold so much wisdom. And speaking of taking action, let's dive into some phrases that are all about making things happen, starting with get the ball rolling.
Such an energetic phrase, isn't it? Like you can practically see things starting to move forward, gaining momentum.
Exactly. It's that feeling of initiating something, setting a plan in motion.
Yeah.
And it's so versatile. You could be getting the ball rolling on a work project, a community event, even planning a vacation.
Right. It's that initial push that gets things going, no matter what the context against. And it's interesting how the phrase itself uses this physical action of rolling a ball to represent progress and forward movement.
It's like that first domino falling, setting off a chain reaction. And speaking of getting right to it, what about the phrase cut to the chase?
Yes, a phrase for those moments when you need to be direct and efficient, especially when time is of the essence.
It's like saying, skip the small talk. Let's get to the heart of the matter. No need for unnecessary